Okay, before I talk to you about how to get your image onto the canvas and starting off with pencil and then retracing over the lines with an acrylic burnt sienna or burnt umber, in this case I use burnt umber, and the reason is because I don't want to get all that graphite all over there because you can see it does get very messy. You can start to see that it starts to blend. So once I retrace all of my lines, I'm basically going to come in here now and get off as much of that graphite as I possibly can. And the next step is we're going to talk about how we work on the next phase of the painting. It's called blocking in, the blocking in stage. And again, everybody does it differently, but how I like to teach the blocking in stage is I like to teach it as using thin layers, or a technique that artists use. It's called glazing. So instead of taking your palette and your mixture and putting the paint on in an impasto style, which is taking it basically right from the tube, I like to create thin layers. So what I did here was I mixed up a color for the guitar, and I have this color mix. I'm going to use liquid because I really want it thin. So I want to create a really thin, easy to spread color that is actually transparent. And the reason why I want transparent is I spent all of this time going through and doing this drawing that if I go over it with an opaque style or an impasto style, I'm not going to see all the lines that I drew, and I need to see that as my reference because the blocking in stage is really just to get rid of the white. Once the white is all gone on the canvas, then my colors will start to work better because remember, if I have one color here against a white background, this color will appear to be different once I put another color there. So I want to block in all of my colors. So here's how I block in. A very, very thin mixture. I can either use liquid or a real thin mixture of turpentine. Again, I like to use a liquid because it flows really easy, and this is the blocking in stage. So all I'm going to do is just block in my colors. All right? And it doesn't even matter if I go over the lines because the paint is going to be thin enough that it's not going to get rid of those lines. So really what I'm doing is just walking around my area, and notice how thin it is. And I can even go over this. Even though I know this is going to be darker later, it's just good to get rid of the white part of the canvas and get rid of that. So I'm just going to keep working on this here for a couple of seconds. Again, notice how thin it is. I'm not paying too much attention to the details. I'm just going over the colors. Again, my main focus right now is really just to get rid of the white. Once I get rid of the white, then my colors will start to work better. I can even go over this area here, but just for the sake of time. And notice what I'm doing is I'm actually going over the brown. Okay, because I don't want to go up to it because I want to make sure that eventually I cover that because that will not stay. But I usually like to give maybe 3 or 4 coats to each one of my paintings. Sometimes they actually go more. Now notice here I'm going right over this because as long as I can see through it, later on when I actually start to draw that, I'm not going to be too concerned. Again, I just want to go over, and this is called the blocking in stage. And I do this before I move on to any kind of detail. Now in this area here, I could also go over the bottle because this is a bottle, but the bottles, you're going to see through it. So it's nice to have that actual color behind there. So in this situation, anything that's see-through, I'm going to put on there. And I work here. Again, this is the blocking in stage just to get this one. Now the next thing I would do is I would block in the background. I'd block in this. This happens to be on the still life a red cloth, so I'll give that some sort of red color. This is silver, so I'll give it like a grayish color until I start mixing up and working. All of these areas here will be blocked in. One of the problems that students tend to do is they start to paint this and they'll focus so much on this that what will happen is if they make a mistake, they spent 5 or 6 hours on it, they don't like it, it's too late at this point, and also they spend all this time on this that sometimes they lose it for the rest of the project. So block in all of your colors. I'm just going to do some more blocking in. I'll show you to the next step.